Another day of New York Jets training camp has wrapped up. They hosted their annual green and white scrimmage on Saturday, prompting them to have an off day on Sunday. Back at it again. Tyron Smith off the practice field due to, experiencing some tightness. What does that mean for the Jets moving forward? Let's roll.
Jets, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Samini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer and Jets legend Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
Welcome in, everyone. We are here in the Huddle episode 5 with Boy Green and Connor. Boy Green, how you doing tonight?
Look at the new digs, the primetime lights. I feel like I'm ready for a primetime Monday Night Football game, baby.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Another day of New York Jets training camp, and guess who is not there again? It's Hassan Reddick. I'm not trying to spread too much light on this situation, as I do think eventually something is resolved. As he makes he's a football player, does make good money, but I mean this is definitely getting a little pricey for Reddick.
Yeah, 2 weeks. That's 2 weeks of camp, $50,000 a day, plus the optional $300K. That's on top of the signing bonus percentage, plus of course everything that happened this offseason. There was a $250,000 workout bonus from OTAs, a $50,000 times 2, so that's $100,000. So that's $350,000 of extra on top of what I just said. So yeah, we're somewhere in the ballpark of just under $1.5 million in fines for a guy that was set to make $14.25 million non-guaranteed prior to the fine. So long story short, it's adding up. And again, if I was Hassan Reddick, I'm a stubborn mule. So for me, I am a guy that does not like losing money. And for simple things like showing up and things of that nature, boy, that would bother me to my core if I was Hassan Reddick. But obviously it's not bothering him. So the story continues.
Yes, so now with Hassan Reddick being out, this clearly opened the door for other opportunities for players like Michael Clemens. The Jets have really seemed to like he had a solid 2022 season his rookie year where he stood out, and actually I thought he was a main part of a focal point of that Jets defense. And then 2023, you see what he does. I mean, he just gets ejected on the Black Friday game for punching a referee in the face and flipping off the Browns fans. That pretty much simulates his season right there. But however, with that being said, surprisingly, he has been getting a lot of the snaps that Hassan Reddick has been getting. It has not been Will McDonald. What do you like in Clemens that you're like, okay, the Jets, what do you think the Jets really like in him that they're like, all right, I think this guy could take the team to the next level?
Yeah, the Jets actually released their unofficial depth chart earlier today. Michael Clemens was starting in place of Hassan Reddick, and I hide nothing about it. I've been a massive Michael Clemens fan since the first time he stepped up to the podium, and then you really dive into the person, the character, and the talent is all there for me. And I know there are some Jets people that are not a fan of Michael Clemens. There's a group that have been begging for him to be cut this offseason. They don't like him. Obviously, the Jets feel differently, where it's not even that he's on the bubble. He is getting starting reps. To me, I think Michael Clemens is clearly making this roster. And you say, like, what are the things that attracts me to him? It's the versatility, certainly. Since his rookie season, Saleh has come out to the podium and said he has taught Clemens it's almost like a Padawan Sith Lord has taught Anakin Skywalker everything I know about the Force. And Michael Clemens knows all the defensive line positions because Saleh has entrusted him with that. And that's because he believes in the intelligence level of Michael Clemens. He also believes in the character. He said, he's saying everything I'm about to say. He said, quote, like, I know a lot of people misinterpret who Michael Clemens is, but if I ever needed someone to babysit my children, and Saleh has like 1,000 kids, he said Michael Clemens would be the first person he calls. A lot of people are like, what? Like, so and I can tell you from my own personal experience, again, I met him in the Hall of Fame locker room after the Jets-Browns game last year, and we got to talk, and we had followed each other on social media and kind of, interacted every once in a while, and then we got to have a one-on-one conversation. I see exactly what Salah sees, man. There is a lot more to the angry face you see and the Debo jokes from the movie Friday and all that other stuff. So I think he brings an intensity to the team that's infectious. I think he brings versatility. And now that the Jets kind of have him in this role where he's getting more opportunities, I think he could kind of settle into not doing 1,000 things. Versatility is great, but as we've seen with ABT, sometimes that could be detrimental to be a jack of all trades, but a master of none. It's great that Michael Clemens is getting this spotlight to shine because I think he's a really, really talented football player.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned there the versatility. He has that ability to play on the outside, which is his main position, yet also slide into the inside as a depth piece, like you mentioned there. And with this Jets team having a very talented roster, I mean, top to bottom, this team is stacked. And you have talks of guys like Irv Charles making the roster, but for special teams only. How important do you think that trait is that Clemens could play both positions? How important do you think that is for his chances to make the roster? As I think he's a lock.
Yeah, I think he's at an absolute lock. And I would even add the special teams. When you talked about his amazing rookie season, he had the block punt against Green Bay in the game that the Jets smacked around Aaron Rodgers in. So he had that block. He made special teams plays. A lot of people like highlighting the negative plays, and he's not a perfect player by any means. Again, in the Giants game, the Jets could have ended that in regulation a lot sooner. Michael Clemens on a 4th and 5 jumps for no apparent reason. The Giants get a first down and they milk, I think it was like another 4 or 5 minutes off the clock, and that could have cost them the game. So Michael Clemens, and then you mentioned the hitting the official and the telling the Browns fans to what's the appropriate way to say this on this show?
Shoo away.
Yeah, he shoot him away. He told them to go enjoy a nice walk on the beach. He apparently said that to every Browns fan in the stadium. So long story short, he's an imperfect player. Maturity obviously has to be there, and he was already an older player coming in because of his unique path to the NFL. I also think the special teams, we'll see how much of that he gets with the increase in defensive snap percentages he's expected to receive. But the special teams, making teams, especially with all the new kickoff rules, I think all of that is important. But particularly to your point, to the versatility, they're going to keep 10 guys on the defensive line that's normally what the New York Jets decide to keep there from that perspective. And the more you can do, the more feathers you have in your cap, the more different things you can do, the more attractive you are to an NFL roster.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the unofficial depth chart there. It's funny because I try not to harp on the first unofficial depth chart, perhaps because I was just digging through facts and I saw a couple tweets about it to back it up. They put Chris Glacer as the
Glacer, yes.
Glacer from undrafted free agent from last year. They listed him as the number 2 center for the Jets. He hasn't played a snap of center in college or the NFL. And then also you look and Hassan Reddick's their edge 4, but theoretically that's not happening. But generally speaking, based on the current situation, yeah, I think he would be edge 4. And we saw it a couple of years ago with Tevin Coleman being ahead of Breece Hall. So it's like these things don't really mean anything, but it's just interesting to get a feel of where Robert Saleh, Joe Douglas and company, where they stand today, right now, as we just wrapped up practice number 10 of the New York Jets training camp so far. And yeah, like I was saying, every single roster spot is valuable there. Someone though who I think has, you mentioned new kickoff rules there. Someone I think who has a real chance to earn that job is Isaiah Davis. All the talks are going to Xavier Gibson and Malachi Corley. I think that, Davis has been getting a fine amount of snaps throughout camp, the reps there. And Salah's harped on a lot about and Brent Boyer, how it's kind of like a run play. And they seem to like Davis there. Davis, a converted running back. What do you think his chances are of being one of those 2 guys back there returning kicks?
Yeah, again, this unofficial depth chart was put together by the media staff, but they do cover all the practices, so they are counting up reps and things of that nature. So it's somewhat of an educated guess on how they believe the team feels about it. But yeah, that was a surprise because obviously we get the Tariq Cohen news, and he was firmly in the mix for one or if not both of the return jobs, both from a kick return and punt return perspective. That chess piece gets removed from the board. Everyone moves up a notch, and that was interesting. That behind Xavier Gibson, who's still injured, and hopefully he comes back probably next week or so. Isaiah Davis is the next guy up. So if Gibson is compromised anyway, Isaiah Davis is the leader, number 2 on the depth chart at both kick and punt returner. So he is a guy that they believe is going to get on the field. And I love how you described that from the coaches, that it's kind of a running play right now, because that's what it is. It is a quarterback hiking the ball and then handing it off to a running back in a unique way, with it being the kickoff rule. So no, Isaiah Davis is a fun choice. I'm going to be honest, not one I've had high on the bingo card. I've thought about X. I've thought about Malachi Corley. I've thought about a lot of different iterations of other guys, but Isaiah Davis is not someone I've really put a lot of stock into as a potential option there at returner, but boy, he's picking up steam.
What about guys like Brandon Codrington or Tyler Harrell, who've been taking snaps there? I look at Codrington first. He has a ton of experience as a kickoff returner. I think that's his only shot. He's been getting burned on defense from what I've seen so far throughout camp, and he's completely undersized. I mean, the guy's 5'9", I believe he is. So that definitely hurts his chances. But what about a guy like Tyler Harrell? Do you think he's a practice squad guy who maybe gets elevated for some injuries there?
When you say so emphatically that 5'9" is undersized, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to feel at 5'3" on a slanted hill, but that's neither here nor there. We can address that with our therapist after the show, I suppose. But no, I mean, like on Codrington, another important role he brings is he is listed as the reserve nickel to Michael Carter II, who also has not returned to practice yet. He's dealing with an ankle issue. And I had Joe Blewett, your teammate at jetsxfactor.com, on that damn straight, my film junkie, okay, from Thursday's episode. And old Joe Blewett says that Quante Stiggers is not an inside player in terms of playing the slot. And Brandon Eccles played boundary corner in college, so it's not him either. So, boy, if MC2 comes out, who steps in? Again, according to the unofficial depth chart right now, that's Brandon Codrington. That's something to watch as we go into camp, or if perhaps a new player steps into that role potentially. Big nickel Ashton Davis would be my lean there if they do go in that direction. But Tyler Harrell, he's an option, but to be honest, with the depth of the wide receiving core, they do have a lot of injuries right now, so that's a thing that could potentially help Harrell if he's going to make some noise, because you think about everybody else there. Malik Taylor's banged up. Lazard was banged up before he came back. Mike Williams, we still don't know what's going on there. So it's Garrett Wilson and a bunch of injured guys. So long story short, that opens the door for Harrell, but looking at the depth chart, Irv Charles, another one who got banged up, looking at it, it would seem very difficult for him to make it on the squad, but I think he would have a chance on the practice squad because it's a 16-man squad that's much bigger than it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you mentioned the versatility kind of there and landing a practice squad. I think Harrell's out of the talk of making the Jets 53-man, but I think it's very easy for the Jets to get him on the practice squad, because if you look at his college stats, he only had 4 catches for 29 yards in his whole collegiate career. So wow. If the Jets like him in that kick return game, I could see them maybe looking at him on the practice squad. Speaking of wide receivers making the practice squad, you have 3 guys, I think, in the wide receiver room who are kind of on the fringe. Irv Charles, Jason Brownlee, and Malik Taylor. I blanked on Taylor's name there for some reason. Personally, I think he's the favorite for that job right now. I don't care what they say about Irv Charles on special teams. Malik Taylor has came in. He's capitalized on every opportunity that has come his way. He's made acrobatic catches. He's been in Hackett's system. He's played with Rodgers. I want him to get that last spot on the depth chart. Heading into preseason, who are you leaning towards there?
By the way, are we rocking a Breeze jersey? Is that what's happening right there?
No, I'm not rocking a Breeze jersey. And, good thing you mentioned that. I'm going to pull up a comment. Bernard Nixon says, Tony Adams All-Pro. I am wearing a Tony freaking Adams jersey. That's whose jersey I'm rocking.
Okay, and shout out to Will Parkinson, another fellow guy in our group of Jets enthusiasts. Yep. He asked the question after the green and white scrimmage to Saleh about Tony Adams, and Saleh came out and said he's the biggest trash talker on the Jets defense, which is not something you would know just based on conversating with Tony Adams. He seems like a really quiet guy. So I love the Tony Adams representation. Very nice there. Yeah, he's a very nice player. But to your point on the wide receivers in the practice squad, Taylor's been a lot of fun. Remember the crazy Zach Wilson Browns Jets Hall of Fame game last year? That was Malik Taylor. The Giants PI call at the end. Yep, that was Malik Taylor. So he's a sneaky guy that none of us talk about that certainly has a lot of upside. Rodgers has talked him up a little bit too. Jason Brownlee, as Saleh has mentioned now on 2 separate occasions, had a very slow start to camp, but he's picking up speed now, both literally and figuratively picking up speed, and that's something that they've liked to see from him. And then Irv Charles, again, I thought that Isaiah Oliver, I've said this for months, I thought he
Yep.
could be the key gunner on special teams that no one discusses based on his prior history. When you look at some of the analytics of his special teams, he seems to be a guy, but I haven't heard much of it in camp. Again, we're probably going to see that once we get into preseason games. There's gunner opportunities for guys to see if that's it, because outside of that, I don't think Irv Charles, with all due respect, and again, Dems the rules. As soon as I say that, I can say anything insulting that I want to after that fact. I think he is the Justin Hardy of wide receivers. He's going to give us absolutely zip and pip at wide receiver. So just to keep him on solely for special teams when he doesn't have the same ability as Justin Hardy, he's had splash plays, but he's had plenty of plays that he blew his assignment in terms of blowing his lane and not being in the right spot at the right time. That Chargers game certainly comes to mind on that big touchdown early in that game. So yeah, some of that to me is a little questionable, and I prefer that opportunity to go to somebody else right now. So we'll see. Brownlee's probably my favorite right now, but like Malik Taylor, he's been pretty talented too.
Yeah, you mentioned taking gunner snaps there in terms of Irv Charles. I know the first episode we had, you said Isaiah Oliver. That's who you spoke about in terms of landing that job at gunner. 2 names that I'm hearing, and you've seen it on Twitter, who are taking snaps at gunner: Quantez Stiggers and Brendan Eccles. The Jets seem to really like Eccles there, and you want to kind of have 2 guys, whether it's Charles and you'll say, well, first off, Stiggers and Eccles are both going to make the roster, so maybe it's
For
those
sure.
2. But like I've said time in and time out, the question becomes, do you want to pick a guy like Taylor? Like I said, chemistry with Rodgers, been in the Hackett system, capitalized on every opportunity, can play on the offense and on special teams? Or do you want to take a guy like Charles, who's a one-trick pony who can only play gunner, but he's very talented at it? I mean, we saw the first snap he had in punt coverage last year. He tackled Marvin Mims in order to force a fumble. And, before we get to a nice little segue to our first caller, you mentioned Tony Adams there being a nice guy. I actually saw a clip on Instagram Reels that everyone was going around. The social media team was polling the Jets. What teammate would you not want to have as your roommate? Tony Adams, Quincy Williams were the 2 that said, "I love all of my teammates. I will not pick. I will not pick one of them to be the worst roommate." But speaking of Tony Adams and Tony Adams jerseys, our first caller on the line is actually a proud owner of a Tony Adams jersey, as well as myself, Mr. Gary of 3D Boxing. Oh, and we lost him. There you are, Gary. Gary, how you doing?
The 2 people on the face of planet Earth that have Tony Adams jersey, me and Kyle Long. Great minds think alike. He's also a Jets, Mets, and Nets fan, so he's trifecta. With a Tony Adams jersey, that's a quadruple vector. Like this.
Very rare.
I like that math.
I also have a Xavier Gipson jersey that should be arriving shortly.
Ooh. I thought you were about to say Xavier Valade. I was wow.
That would have been a deep cut. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to start with Gibson. It's my boy. He's from Dallas. He's from my area. He's from my neck of the woods. He's got a great story. He's a guy that wasn't recruited at all out of high school, and then he finds himself on the Jets roster. I'm like, I had to look it up to make sure it was the same Xavier Gipson. Like, this is Xavier Gipson, from Woodrow Wilson High School in Dallas. Like, yeah, it is. It's like it's that guy. And then the first game of the season, he wins the game on a punt return touchdown. I'm like, this is my guy. I call every week or so, and kind of the status changes. Is he good? And I thought when Cohen retired, I thought, well, that's good for my boy Gibson. Is Gibson going to be on this roster? Is he going to be on the roster?
I think he's as close to a roster lock as you could get, quite frankly. If you go to the unofficial depth chart. If I had to guess right now, gun to my head, I think he's the starting slot receiver week 1 on Monday Night Football against the San Francisco 49ers. I love Xavier. He's the primary returner at both kick and punt return right now on the unofficial depth chart. I think he is the inside gut shot over Corley, who has shown splash plays. But again, I think he's going to be a work in progress. Maybe he eventually takes that starting slot gig from X, maybe halfway through the season, but the time is now. And it shows how much the Jets think of him, despite this injury that's kept him on the shelf for about a week, and it looks like it might be another week out. for X, that he's remained on the top of all their depth chart and all their promises. They feel really good about X, and so do I. So yeah, I'd say he's as close to a roster lock as you could get to a player like X. Like obviously, like Brees Hall, like obviously he's a roster lock. So he's not Brees Hall, but for what he is, that's as close to a roster lock as you could get in my mind.
That is music to my ears, Paul. Thank you.
Of course.
Which takes me to my next guy, another North Texas, another DFW guy, which you were singing his praise. And if you listen to Jake's show, everyone on Jake's show hates him. Michael Clemens. Again, like he's big Mike. He's 6'5", 270. He's got a lot of athleticism for a guy that size. He ran like a 4.7, 5.40 in the combine. I like him a lot, and not just because he's a Texan. I think a guy with that size and that athleticism in that system, right? Olbrecht and Salah have built a system, and it's kind of like what they do in San Antonio with Popovich. Like they just get the most out of players, and a guy with that size, I think he has a lot of upside. I know he's best case scenario, he's a backup, but you think his spot is not only comfortable, but you think he's going to have a somewhat of a major role in this year's defense?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. To me, it's been ridiculous, the takes from Jets people that have, first off, I think here's the unfortunate truth of what's happened with Michael, is that the moment he was drafted, there was a lot of people that either didn't watch him or didn't care much for him. And I think they read a lot of headlines. Obviously, there's that story with him and his girlfriend and the phone throwing and all that jazz. I think people read headlines sometimes and then they just judge a person. They say, oh, this guy's a real jerk. And then when certain things happen with narratives in the draft, I think people stick to those stories and they refuse to adapt. I think it's important that if you, like, for instance, I use this example all the time. Josh Allen, the Bills quarterback. Jets were looking for a quarterback that year. I didn't want Josh Allen. I thought he was going to be a bust. I thought he was going to stink. And he ends up going to the Bills. I laughed to myself, suckers. You get this loser quarterback. And look, I'm an idiot. Obviously, I'm completely wrong. Josh Allen has turned into one of the best quarterbacks in football. But I said to myself before that draft, okay, if the Jets take this guy that I don't want, I'm just going to accept it because he's a member of the team and he has the logo on the side of his head. And I support any member that joins the Jets because that's what you're supposed to do as fans. I don't think people have done that for Michael Clemens for whatever reason, whatever biases they've seemed to have. He's a super talented kid. I love the vibe. I love his talent. I love his athleticism. I love the fact he can play nearly every spot on the defensive line. And despite what all the haters are saying out there, Michael Clemens is the starting defensive end in Hassan Reddick's spot right now on the team. Has been getting first team reps over Will McDonald. And again, I'm not trying to go too crazy with that because they rotate anyway, but the people that were saying Michael Clemens is going to get cut are idiots. They were just overreacting to nonsense. He fits what they want to from an enforcer standpoint. Both Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas said that, from intensity, physicality, what he brings to the team, and then the skill set speaks for itself. Did he have the greatest year last year? No. Did he get lost in the sauce? So did a lot of players with how everything spun out of control. He's not a perfect player by any means, but damn it, I love the cut of his jib. I love the vibe. I love the body. I love the physique. And man, too many people are hating on my boy Michael Clemens, and it disgusts me.
Yeah,
I agree with Paul, but Connor, your thoughts on my boy Clemens?
I just wanted to, well, first off, I needed to pull this up. Snowball has a Clemens jersey, and that's funny because, Snowball is a fellow Long Islander, and he also owns a Jeremy Rucker jersey. So two very unique choices there. Yeah. But in terms of Clemens, I don't dislike him. I was very high on him going into last year. What he showed, like, I was here on him going into last year, and now I'm here. So it's not too much of a drop off. Honestly, I don't mind him flipping off the Browns fans. I don't mind him getting ejected by punching. I view that as grit. Some people view it as poor sportsmanship whatsoever. I view it as grit. He's gonna do that. He's gonna support his team. I'd rather have a player like him do that than someone who's just gonna blatantly go out there and not care. So I like his aggression. I like that he is, showing why, his grit. So I really like Clemens.
Clemens was another guy. I don't know if you know this, but he didn't go straight to A&M. He went to a community college called Cisco Community College. Yeah, he wasn't recruited. I didn't know that. A small, it's not really a small school, but it's like a rich, privileged white kid school that usually doesn't produce a whole lot of great football talent. Called Saxony, Texas, far north, like far corner of Collin County, which is like northern suburbs of Dallas. He went to a little community college first, set the world on fire there, and then got noticed by A&M. So both him and X both really came out of nowhere. And even in college, like he really had to sing for his food. Like he was not given anything at A&M. Like he had to go up the depth chart, and he had to really earn that spot, which is something like A&M is a football factory. You have to be really good to move up the depth chart to really impress people. Like and he was able to do. Now he was there for 6 years, right? So I don't know if a lot of people know this. He turns 27. Later. Yeah. Wow. So he's not. He was at A&M for 5 years, and then he was at the other community college for a year. So he was in college for 6 years with a redshirt year and all that. So I mean,
and you think people would be in love with that story, which 100%, again, for people that don't know, I got to do some cool bio pieces on a lot of the Jets players they drafted, got to talk to people from their area to like learn more about them. And man, people should really, for those who don't know, and I'm glad you brought it up, Gary, people who don't know the Michael Clemens story, and I would assume a lot of people don't. Like, look at his history, man. It's a really unique path to the NFL. And again, you would think if you look at that story, like, damn, that's someone that you should be rooting for, not against. But hey, different strokes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, absolutely. My last question is Lazard. I was as down as Lazard on anyone, but you look at his career, and he's been an adequate receiver for an extended period of time. Was last year an aberration? Can we expect better things from him? And if so, was it last year just maybe a mental letdown where once you replace the greatest quarterback of all time with the worst quarterback of all time, like mentally, I mean, it's not a great sign if that's what happened, but it's understandable. Do you think that's possible that he can go back to being adequate this year?
I would say, is he going to be better than last year? Yes, because it would be near impossible to be worse because he was just so god awful. I'm just going to be blunt. So for God's sake, it would be, yes, yeah, sure. That's not saying much, but yes, he will be better. Again, the part I continue to harp on, and I'm trying to do a clean slate with this, but it's a hard thing as a former football player for me to have what I believe happened to Lazard, where there was a lack of effort. There was a aura of quitting and saying, I didn't have Rodgers. So F the team, F this and all that stuff to my core as a fan really rubs me the wrong way. And I was hoping, again, clean slate. He's looked really good in these camp appearances, and he steps up to the mic for the first time in a long time. I'm like, okay, cool. He can take some accountability. Said I was a jerk. I don't know what the hell I was thinking last year, but I've rededicated myself. Instead, it was still a lot of excuse making. Like the special teams, he went like, yeah, I guess I'll do this so I don't get fined. And then he said, yeah, there was difficult challenges last year. We're playing with a lot of quarterback. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, it's just lame to blame other things because I continue to harp on there are things as a receiver you can control that has nothing to do with whether Aaron Rodgers or Connor Long is throwing me footballs. Effort, hustle, penalties, drops. Whether Connor throws me a football or Aaron Rodgers, maybe Aaron Rodgers could throw me a better football in my mitts, but if it hits me in the hands and drops, that's on Lazard for dropping the ball. That's on Lazard for doing dumb, cheap shot stuff in the Chiefs game where Garrett Wilson is a great play that gets us to the 5-yard line and flag, blocking the back on Lazard, takes us back to third long, and then we got to punt the ball. So plays like that happen throughout the year, and then the stupid soccer ball thing, and then for a $44 million receiver to be a healthy scratch on multiple occasions, what does that say to the Jets? Are like, yeah, we're good. Just sit on the bench. Don't wear the uniform. For it to reach that level, what does that say? So again, all that crap bothers me. The good news is football field product, what he's been able to show so far, it's been a pleasant surprise. It's been nice. So I'm just hoping that that's what we get, and hopefully he just doesn't step up to a mic anymore because it just infuriates me every time he does.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's so funny you mentioned the special teams there. When I was credentialed for media camp, when I was credentialed for training camp practice this past Tuesday, a week from today, actually, when Brant Boyer addressed the media, he really spoke on, I think Kaz it was, who asked him about what has Lazard shown on special teams. He's like, hey, he's a great attitude. He's shown he's willing to do anything to make this roster. He's shown he's willing to do anything to get his foot in the door. So it's funny you mentioned that there when he first went up to the podium, the fact that he was like, oh, I guess I'll do this special teams thing, blah, blah, blah. But Gary, really appreciate you the call. Any final thoughts?
No, that's it. Thank you guys. Connor, Paul, you guys are doing a great job. This is a dream team here, you two. Great work.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate
Good work,
it. Gary, really appreciate the call. Yeah, and definitely some like Lazard there, 1000%. I mean, you mentioned the thing possibly not getting fined. I'm rooting for him. How can, like you said, like you mentioned earlier, how can you not root for a player on your
Yes.
own team? You gotta root for him, and I think there's a chance that he has a breakout year this year. I hope he does. But it's so funny, like.
Breakout. Okay.
I think a breakout. If Rodgers could stay healthy. Here, I do find a good receiver, though, someone who could play with any quarterback. A Garrett
Yes.
Wilson, a Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin
Ooh,
and Garrett
okay.
Wilson, they remind me, they're very similar in terms, not so much of in skill, maybe a little in skill set, but they both were number
Ohio
7.
State guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Ohio State. They both wore, well, Garrett's 5 now, but they both wore number 17, and they've both played with like a gazillion, trillion, quadruple gazillion quarterbacks in for their first couple years in the league. So, Lazard, it's so funny you mentioned, like, when I had Mike Clay on my show was right after he released his like statistical predictions for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And he had Lazard with 50 yards, I think 4 catches for like 50 yards or something like that. So I asked him about it. I said, yeah, you seem to have low expectations for Lazard going to 2024 as you have him with 50 yards. He goes, that's if he makes the team. I'm like, wow. I was like, wow. So yeah, it's a lot has changed though from what we have seen so
Yes.
far throughout training camp for sure. But we're gonna keep going with your calls. We have Tommy joining the show. Tommy, how you doing, my man?
Oh, guys, can you hear me? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Volume's
we
good.
gotcha.
Uh-huh.
Boy, Green, Connor, how are you guys? You guys are my favorites, man.
Doing
I
well. Really
appreciate that,
appreciate it.
brother.
Hope you're doing having a great night. I completely kind of disagree with Gary just on the point. And I love Gary. Gary has a lot of good points. But the thing is, where our team was, we never had a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. When you watch him in training camp, you see a man amongst boys. And when I try to explain that to my kids, they have no idea what that means. And it's okay because they haven't been there yet.
Sure.
But when you see a man amongst boys telling everybody on the offense and defense of what they're supposed to do, and he knows every single position on that field of what can go wrong and how he can do something wrong and how he can fix it and make somebody else better, that's only going to make us Super Bowl run, bro. Super Bowl bound with our football gods. Our health injury stays safe, and there's no stopping us because there's not a better roster. I just went to the other game. I saw my sons for the first time in 2 years. I went to the Madrid versus Barcelona at MetLife last night.
Nice.
It was nuts. Yeah, it was a crazy lunatic. But I was wearing the only one wearing a Sauce Gardner jersey, and everyone's chanting Madrid, Barcelona. I'm like, you know what, Chino? My son, I call him Chino. His name's Thomas, but in Spanish it's Chino. I said, you know what? Screw it. Jets, Jets. And they're all starting to speak to me in another language. They're saying, Dad, it's the wrong sport. I'm like, I don't care. We're going to be here for the next 10 weeks.
Stadium. They show up
We're
to our stadium.
Yeah, they're going to be here for the next 10 weeks, man.
They don't make the rules. That's our house. They don't make the rules.
That's our house, yeah. So I just want to show you guys love, and you guys are doing a great job, and I love what you guys are doing, and I appreciate you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. Stay strong, mentally, physically, and spiritually. I love you guys, okay?
Thank you,
Appreciate
Tommy.
the call, Tommy. Really appreciate
I'll just
it.
answer that point real quick to what he said. I think it makes a massive difference accountability because Zach Wilson and Sam Darnold, who are the previous young quarterbacks coming in, are these unassuming guys that are not barkers. They're not Aaron Rodgers like, hey, buddy, it was a slant. Like, again, like just cracking the whip and setting the bar high. That's what he's done with Tippmann. He's yelled at Tippmann, according to multiple reports, when the snaps have been all over the place. He's like, hey, Tippmann, cut the crap, like, let's go. And it's not to like make fun of him. It's not to belittle him. He says he turns around all the time and gives him praise outside of it for what he believes is all pro potential, but it's cracking the whip and holding him accountable. And why Aaron Rodgers can do that and some of those other guys can't are 2 reasons. Number one, credibility. He's got a Super Bowl ring on his finger. He's got 4 MVPs. Yeah, I think he knows what he's doing. So if he's telling me what to do, okay,
you gotta listen.
100% I'm going to listen. So there is a command there that has been lacking previously, and that's going to keep everyone on their toes. And there's this belief. I can't remember who the player was, but it might have been Olu Fashanu, who talked about when Aaron Rodgers in the huddle, we all believe we're going to win the Super Bowl. We're going to go
That's
score a
Tippmann.
touchdown.
Tippmann
Yeah,
said that,
Tippmann,
yeah.
great. That when we're in the huddle and he says things, we all believe whatever he says and what we're going to do. And he says it inspires the rest of us to rally. So to me, that's incredibly exciting and great point there.
Yeah, before we get to our next caller, I will say this. People, talk about, okay, God, who's going to call offensive plays this year? Robert Saleh, Nathaniel Hackett. It's like, people are not realizing it doesn't matter who's calling plays. It's Aaron Rodgers' offense. Aaron Rodgers is going to do what he wants. I mean, like you said, 4-time NFL MVP. I mean, this guy's he's going to change the plays at the line of scrimmage. But then the question becomes, are these plays even competent enough that he can change them at the line of scrimmage and still have success? But yeah, I would say, even though the defense has been winning the majority of the battles, I will say the offense looks good. But like even if it wasn't, there would be something we'd be concerned about. I mean, is Zach Kuntz getting enough reps at tight end 4 or whatever? So it's like there's always some training camp storyline. This year for the Jets, the main one was Hassan Reddick. There's always one of these, lingering stories that happens throughout training camp. Just happens to be the defense winning the majority of the battles and Hassan Reddick. But let's get to our next caller. We have B-Mac joining the show. B-Mac, how you doing?
Hey guys, young GOAT Connell and the GOAT Paul Jr. What's going on? Before I kick things off, I just want to apologize for the little intense moment this morning on your show, Paul.
I to address it real quick, because I know we're streaming on my channel as well. Phil reached out to me privately. You're reaching out to me now. I just want to make it very clear. I am all for hearty conversation. I hope it happens on this show, in the huddle. I hope it happens on Boy Green Daily. I hope it happens on Boy Green Meets Woody, although we don't take phone calls on that show. I hope it happens everywhere, because hearty conversation's good. And I got nothing wrong with two dudes, girls, anything in between, or squaring up and trading dukes and debating a topic on the show. So no apology necessary. It's good as long as it's all in good fun. We don't need personal insults or anything going too crazy. I'm all fine with a good couple of jokes, barbs back and forth, as long as it doesn't, go over the top. I'm totally fine with people exchanging thoughts and having all kinds of conversations. So no apology necessary. Mac from the B.
Yeah. And then Phil. Phil is a good dude. So I hope I didn't accept the deal.
All good in the hood.
I did reach back to him and say that we still cool. Let's
nice.
Have fun. Let's chill for the Jets. Let's hope they go 20-0. Rodgers wins MVP and gets the Super Bowl and. Hopefully get Jets and Packers and who knows.
So. Ooh, okay, baby, let's do it.
I do want to first of all, I got 2 quick points. My first point is the Michael Clemens thing. I think he's not that I think you need to give him a chance. Give him a chance.
Yes.
Maybe have him as because Salah's defensive lineman likes to rotate guys a lot. I think we saw that a ton last year. So I know last year he didn't flash out a lot, but it seems like I kind of like his modal. Seems like he's got good modal, and I think if I think he has a chance to get a lot of opportunities on this defensive line, especially with Hassan. Because I do believe Hassan Reddick will be there week 1.
Yes.
There's no way he's sitting out. I think they're just playing the waiting game. But I especially him there. This Jets defensive line is going to be scary. Brock Purdy is not going to have enough time week 1 to get the ball out. I think Brock Purdy's going to get sacked about 8-9 times. gonna be
good Lord. Okay, that sounds good to me. I would just say the only carryover I want to do on the Michael Clemens thing you brought back up, like Connor said, he loves his passion and some of the other things that have gone there. To me, there is a fine line. I love Michael Clemens. Again, I've got to meet him first. I got to talk to him. We've all seen him in the games and stuff. There is a fine line, though, because obviously we don't want that passion blowing over into key moments, because if this season is what we all believe it was and BMAC was singing sweet praises, I need to record that next time and play that before I go to bed so I can rev my engine. I would
Brock Purdy won't last.
Great. I don't want him to last.
I got a hot take. Brock Purdy won't last past the third quarter.
Oh, good Lord. Well, I don't want any injuries, but
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Hey. I mean, people do it to Rodgers. People do it to Rodgers. Oh, Rodgers not going to make it through the season. You know what I mean?
No, that's true. That's a fair point. And I take it. I would just say, for the finish of the Michael Clemens conversation, we're going to have a lot more closer games this year with Aaron Rodgers. And if that's true, those penalties are going to be absolutely critical and could decide the difference between wins and losses. So I love the passion. And it's kind of what Rodgers said about Garrett Wilson previously. Like, he loves his passion. He doesn't want to, get rid of that, because that's what makes him special. Same thing with Clemens, but you have to be able to channel it properly. A rational passion, as a guy who screams for a living. That's something that can sometimes go overboard, overflow, and can put the team into trouble. So it's a fine line. I love the passion, but he's got to make sure it's central and focused in the middle of the football play.
And then one more point real quick, and then I'm gonna leave. The one thing, your dad said, I just want to refute what your dad said. He said Rodgers is not a team guy.
He said that several times. Yes.
Yeah, and that was why that Derek. Well, first of all, I don't want to bring up the Derek Carr thing, but Derek Carr in his press conference said that to the State fans, I can't promise you winning, but I will try my best.
Yeah,
right? Aaron Rodgers said that. Rodgers' press conference said that Super Bowl trophy is looking lonely, and it's time for us to get another one. That's the guy you want on your team. That's going to come in, that's going to set the expectations, not a guy that's going to come in and say, well, I can't promise a lot of winning, but I will try my best. No. That Super Bowl trophy is lonely. We need to add another one in the case. And to say that he's not a team guy, if he wasn't a team guy, his teammates would have voted him most inspirational. If he wasn't a team guy, he would have played through a broken thumb and broken ribs in
2022,
and his 2022 down year, quote unquote. And if he wasn't a team guy, there would be no Mike Williams. Mike Williams would have come and take a pay cut to join. Tyron Smith would have come and take a pay cut to join. What's the offensive lineman's name? John Simpson would have come.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Tyron Smith. Right.
I mean, those guys came because they want to play and win a Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers. So I just want to refute that.
Yeah, and the only point I would bring back up, and I think this was before Connor was born. Yeah, it definitely was. What year were you born again, Connor?
July 2011.
Oh, yeah, this was before you. So when the Jets fired Eric Mangini, and they were looking for the next coach, the thing the Jets needed was an injection of energy and chutzpah, and Rex Ryan delivered it in spades. And he said, I'm not here to kiss Belichick's rings. And Jet fans had been in slumber for so long that they're like, yes, this is what we need. We need a confidence booster. And he delivered it. I think in the same way, Aaron Rodgers, talking about the lonely Super Bowl trophy and all this stuff, finally injected some life into this dead franchise that had been going through some doldrums for the last 12, 13 years where we needed life. And I think he's providing exactly what we've long needed. And just a quick plug. Thanks, everybody, for the super chats and calls and all that jazz. We friggin' love it, baby. So keep it rolling.
Speaking of super chats, that was what we were gonna get to right after that call. OG Jet fan Tommy with the $5 super chat, but no message. no message. Decided not to use the message in the super chat. Tommy, given that you did not use your message, if you put anything in the chat, we will be sure to cut right to it. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree. You mentioned not trying to wish injuries on Brock Purdy. I try not to wish injuries on any player, but I mean, what people have said about Aaron Rodgers is just not acceptable. Not acceptable to criticize number 8 like that. But we have another caller on the line, Matthew Heiserman, joining the show. Matthew, how you doing?
Hello, how are you doing?
Doing well.
So, of course, Hassan Reddick is still holding out, and I'm sure you guys are probably pretty sick of talking about that because it's been big news, but something talked a little less in that conversation is how that's going to affect Will McDonald playing behind him, and what role do you think he'll be able to have if this continues with Hassan Reddick?
Wow, Matthew Heiserman, what a great name! It's like Heisman, but with an R in there. That's terrific. I would say, first off, I am never going to get sick of talking about it. That's like when people said, Aaron Rodgers, you're going to get sick of talking about that. Nope, I'm still good. People can still ask me all the Aaron Rodgers questions they want. And no, the Hassan Reddick story is a story till it's not. So you and anyone else on the planet that wants to ask Hassan Reddick questions, we have no other choice but to address the elephant in the room, which was unusual that a player that you traded for in the last year of his deal is holding out. That's very bizarre, and now it's gone to 2 weeks. So it's getting to that time. Again, to me, I've predicted that this situation will be resolved before the first preseason game for the Jets, which is rapidly approaching. Their first preseason game is on Saturday, so I still got 5 days to be right, and hopefully I am, because I love being right. I am an egomaniac, so let me continue to be right. That would be terrific from that standpoint. So let's figure out what's going to happen here with this Hassan Reddick situation. I would say, though, what Robert Saleh said is coach speak, and he's like, let's not talk about the guy who's not here. Let's talk about all the guys that are here. And they get those hops. So it does sound like football cliches, but it is true. Will McDonald is getting way more reps. Michael Clemens is another example, is getting way more reps than other players would be if Hassan Reddick was there. So let's take it as the benefit. Let's write it out. But I would say, to a greater point, that Hassan Reddick, part of his, the trade package is that conditional 2026 third could become a second if he accomplishes 2 things: double-digit sacks and plays in at least 67.5% of the snaps. I believe he's never going to play in 67.5% of the snaps, so it won't matter about the sack thing. He could have 15 sacks. It won't matter if he doesn't accomplish both of those features. And with him not accomplishing that, that means reps are going to go around. And old Will McDonald had a farm, is going to be getting plenty of reps this season, I believe. And let's see if he's the real deal. He'll get a chance to prove that this year.
Yeah, and you mentioned Will McDonald getting those reps there, Boy Green. It's like we mentioned earlier, most notably Clemens is getting those reps more than McDonald, and it's also a little concerning that he's yet to bulk up. I mean, when he first got drafted, he's sitting at about 230, 235. He said he wants to get to 250, 255, and Coach Saleh has kind of dodged those questions regarding McDonald's age, but the media has shoved it down Saleh's throat, so he's finally gotten it, gave in a couple times. He's like, yeah, he's still around 230, 235. So yeah, there are definitely concerns there regarding McDonald, but Matthew, really appreciate the call. You got any final thoughts?
Of course. I mean, I just want to say I'm a big Commanders fan, but I mean...
I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah.
But, I mean, this is a great podcast. Got to tune in, watch my guy Connor, but keep up the great work.
Really appreciate it. Appreciate the call, Matthew. Boy Green,
well, let's tell Matthew. The Jets are going to beat his Washington Commanders, who can never find a name for more than 2 years, with a rusty wrench. That's what's going to be happening on Saturday, pal. So Jane Daniels like, oh, wow, I can't wait for my first preseason game. Oh, boy, you're going to wish you waited, pal, because this Jets defense, even backups, are going to be giving you the business. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And plus, of course, the Jets beat Washington last year, which is great. So appreciate Matty Ice spending some time here on the show. But hey, man, it just is what it is. This is a business transaction, and we're going to get it. We're going to get it on Saturday.
At least the Commanders fans have something to look forward to, though, in terms of watching Jaden Daniels in the preseason. It'd be he's like when we had Zach Wilson in the preseason. Obviously, that did not end up as we intended it to. But it's like, hey, it's a fun sight to watch, and that's why I'm really excited for the preseason. I want to see the rotation. I want to see Peasley and Martinez in the preseason because, well, first Peasley, there hasn't been a ton of talks about. Well, there have been talks, excuse me, just negative in terms of throwing these interceptions. Martinez is the one who was recently signed multi UFL MVP. I haven't heard a peep about him throughout training camp. And, speaking of not hearing a peep, we're going to move over to the defensive side of the ball. Leonard Taylor. Sure. I mean, this guy, Trevor Sikkema, Connor Rogers had really high expectations for him. They're like, oh, God, this guy could have been a third-round draft choice. There were talks going into 2023. There were talks that he could be a first-round pick, and then he just didn't live up to expectations. You're forcing him to go undrafted. I mean, even after that disappointing season, they still thought, okay, he'll be a second- or third-round guy. No, he goes undrafted. There's all these talks of God, this guy's going to make the roster. He's going to make an impact. He hasn't really made as much noise during training camp as guys like Braden McGregor or Eric Watts. If you had to make your bet now, what does Taylor's role look like? Is it a practice squad? Is it cut? Is it making the team? What do you think that looks like?
Ah, yes, LT3, Leonard Taylor III from Miami, the University of the Hurricanes. Yes, I would say that preseason is going to determine his fate, and that starts, of course, on Saturday. We have not heard much noise in camp, and again, camp is certainly something because that's where we're spending the majority of your time, these preseason opportunities. I'd also highlight the joint practice that is coming up this Thursday, and then each of the following weeks against Carolina and the New York Giants. Leonard making some noise in those opportunities will catch eyebrows and catch turning heads at One Jets Drive. That's the focus for me. Right now, I would project him to be on the practice squad. The Jets got 16 men there. They believe in the kid, but obviously no one else drafted him either. So it could be a developmental project similar to Zach Kuntz in a different way of seeing if he could get his head on right. Because if he has his head on right, he's a talented kid, but that's been his issue from college when he had those talks of maybe being a first-round draft choice and not living up to the potential. So he's got some things to check off his proverbial bucket list, so to speak. But he's fighting. Braden McGregor's fighting. Eric Watts is fighting again. Michael Clemens is making this roster. So get off my lawn, you youngsters. Okay. So we'll see what players are going to be in or out. But to me, what will determine that is not these training camp, just generic practices. It will be joint practices and preseason ops for the talented former Hurricane.
Everyone smash that like button. Make sure you're subscribed to both of our YouTube channels. We have one more caller here before we wrap. We have Brandon joining the show. Brandon, how you doing?
Wow.
What are you wowing about?
Look at this guy. It's Brandon calling in on the friggin' in the huddle. You're joining us in the huddle. It feels like you're in the huddle right now. You're about to tell us a play for us to go line up in. Let's kind of rally here.
Yeah.
I'm a blue 42, down the hut kind of guy.
Oh, I see.
Okay, I'm ready. Okay, yes.
Man, I'm so happy to see you on late at night for once. I'm usually seeing you in the morning.
It's true. That's true. So now you can wake up with me and go to bed with me. You're welcome.
I know. Golly, you're like my wife.
Okay, there we go.
I was going to see if I could talk to you for the next 3 hours about how Aaron Rodgers is better than Derek Carr.
That was pretty passionate today. That came out of nowhere. And
yep.
Wow. Yeah.
Hey, that was funny.
I thought
Connor,
so. Yeah.
how old are you, bud?
I'm 13. I just turned 13 July 15th.
Dude, I'm telling you, you really know your stuff.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I enjoy listening to you.
Thank you.
So professional.
Thanks.
You were born the year I graduated, and I'm telling you,
wow.
sometimes when I get on here and start rambling, I'm like, man, I wish I sounded as professional as he does.
Thank you.
You're pro.
I really appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. But yeah, I guess I jumped in a little late on the video, but it said the video was titled, 5 things we're looking forward to this preseason?
Yeah, that's why we spoke about kind of, the depth chart there and then the undrafted free agents.
Preseason action, what we're looking at. Yeah.
I got you. Well, there's only one thing we need to be thinking about, and that is, are we raising the Lombardi Trophy with the left hand or the right hand? That's all we need to work.
And I got to work on my crunches, make sure I give it a nice hoist delay. So,
I'm telling you, we're gonna be fine this year. Or I think we're looking good. I think Hassan Reddick we're going to get him to sign Garrett Wilson. He's going to be looking like Randy Moss.
Woo!
Sign me up, baby.
We're talking Randy Moss numbers, and that's really all I got. I was just really happy to see some Jets football talk this late at night. I appreciate y'all. I hope y'all continue to do this on. Y'all going to try to do this on Mondays?
It won't be during this. Yeah, it won't be during the season, and rightfully so because of the Monday Night Football games. I wouldn't want to compete with Jet games and things. But yes, we'll be doing this for like the rest of the month.
I got you. Well, I appreciate y'all having me on. Boy Green, I thought when B-Mac got on, I thought he was about to pull a Conor McGregor and say, I want to apologize to absolutely nobody.
That would have been terrific. I thought that was when he like said, "Oh, let me pop on real quick." I'm like, "Oh my god, this is going to be so nice." And then I thought he was going to give us the Conor McGregor, and he didn't. I'm like, missed up.
Well, hey, I appreciate y'all having me on, and y'all have a good night. Y'all be safe.
Thank you, Brandon. We really, really appreciate the call. And Boy Green, we have actually a last minute caller, someone who just joined.
Okay.
Do you have time for another caller?
Sure. Well, I guess it depends on who it is, but let's see who the hell it is.
It is none other than Tim from Fishland. Tim, how you
doing? My arch nemesis. Here he is.
How we doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Actually, that's not true. It's not good to see.
You're a scholar. You're going to be one hell of a kid, man, when you grow up.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay.
What about when I grow up, Tim? What about when I grow up? What am I going to be?
I think you're too past that, Paul.
Well, we try the silver whiskers.
There always is room to grow.
Okay, there we go. I hope so. I'm 5'3", so excellent.
So, the Hassan Reddick thing, how do you feel like this is shaking out? Because I think he's losing valuable reps. You gotta remember on the D line, it's a lot about timing with those stunts and stuff like that. So
it's annoying.
Sure.
It's a nuisance. Maybe that's a right level of discomfort. It's not painful yet, but it's annoying. It's like you're at a family barbecue. They're like, heard about Hassan Reddick. You're like, are you kidding me here? Like, can I go to any other part of this party? But they just keep bringing it up. It's like like a divorce or something. And then I'm just like, well, I guess I got to talk about this. It's headline news. So like, that's what's going on with the Reddick thing. Again, it's an annoying nuisance. Perhaps if this conversation, Tim, you call in 2 weeks and you're like, Reddick, I'm like, oh boy. Like it's August 19th, August 20th, and we're like hanging on the horizon a handful of weeks out from the season. That's at the tail end of the preseason. My concern level will be turned up quite high on the dial up.
My thing is, did the Jets like I wonder if the Jets like offered him like a little bit more fully guaranteed.
They
did apparently.
They did according to Connor Hughes of SNY. Yes. But here's the thing: he's looking for a multi-year extension in the 25.
Well, he ain't gonna get that.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. He's looking for a multi-year extension in the range of $25 to $28 million a year. That would put him in between Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. Kind of in the middle for one of the highest paid edge. I don't know the exact number. I think it's 4 or somewhere, either 4, 5, or 6, somewhere in there that would make him that amount highest paid edge rusher. It's really interesting, and I'm starting to wonder. Let's say he just all of a sudden reports to camp. It could even be tomorrow. It could be the next day whatsoever. But
when they're taking from your wallet, you eventually will. Otherwise,
he's going to lose value.
But the thing that doesn't make any sense for me, like I could see the whole hold in thing because he's still getting paid.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? But I understand why he's holding out because none of it's guaranteed. Okay. Yeah. And I would give him more and make it guaranteed, but he ain't getting no $28 million. It ain't happening. Like
he's not a free agent. Exactly. Tim, I'm right with you. If he was a free agent, he can negotiate anything he wants to. But guess what? He's not. He's under contract.
Of
course he does. He's 29. He has to play.
And if he doesn't play this year, the Jets still own his rights next year.
Correct.
So let's play hardball with that.
And also, here's the thing. We all, I didn't notice it until later on, and I should have paid more attention to it when they first traded from. The second they traded from, a report came right out from Mike Garafolo, the NFL Network. The Jets are already looking to extend Reddick due to his current contract situation.
And that was true.
Yeah, and the thing is that people need to harp on more is people forgetting Reddick is from Philly. He attended Temple University. He played for the Eagles. He
I
recorded
thought it was from Jersey, I heard.
No, I think
Yeah.
it's Philly. I thought it was Philly.
No, I think he was a Philly fan growing up, but I think
Oh,
he was
yes,
born
that's
in
what it
Jersey.
was. That's what it was. He was born in Jersey. He was a Philly fan growing up. He attended Temple University. He then went on to play for the Eagles. He recorded 16 sacks in 2022, was ranked 4th in Defensive Player of the Year voting that year. If
Just to clarify, you said it too, Connor, but yeah, he was born in Camden, New Jersey,
Right
and
here.
was born and raised there, and he went to high school at in Haddon Heights, if that's how you pronounce it. So yeah, he was born and raised here.
Yeah, I don't think he would have left Philly though, due to his current concept. If he knew he was going to work something out, I don't think he'd wanted to. He'd want to leave Philly. So and then it's a really interesting situation. And the question now becomes: let's say he reports as soon as possible. Do they throw him in preseason games? Because we haven't seen this guy participate in. I don't think it'll happen. But that's like.
But see, this is where I don't get his leverage. Like, if the Jets offered me anything over 18 million or 18 million, fully guaranteed for this year, I'm signing it. I'm playing. And I'm gonna play my ass off because then I know I'm going to get paid next year in free agency.
Yeah, I don't think
if he hit the market, he'd get his contract.
Sure.
See what I mean? But the Jets own his rights. He has to understand that. Like there is nowhere where you win in this situation. You're 30 years old.
Yeah, I don't think he's getting a fully guaranteed deal. If the Jets get to 18-19, which is the Khalil Mack contract, I think that's going to be incentive based. So he has 14.25. That's non-guaranteed. But as soon as he plays a game in the season, that becomes guaranteed. So it's a little bit of semantics, contractually speaking. But yeah, if you give him some incentives for another 3, 4, 5 million more than he would get, I think that's a happy medium. And then he gets paid by somebody next year, whether it's a Jets.
I heard that
if he gets hurt,
if he gets hurt at any point this year on his current contract, they can cut him.
They can, but he's going to have guaranteed money. Once the season starts, he's a vested veteran.
Okay. I didn't know that. I thought it was whatever was on your guarantee contract. Like when you sign that contract, you know how you have a certain amount.
Sure.
For the full
like
amount.
Right now, they could cut him, but like they wouldn't because they need him. But once we get into the season, that money's happening.
And also, by holding out of training camp, whenever this issue gets resolved, he has no leverage whatsoever. He's used all of his leverage in this current situation by holding out through training camp. Really, he's only hurting himself because in order to get paid in the NFL, you need to play the game of football. That is how you get paid.
You got to be released. And he wasn't released right now. So his best bet is just to take what he can. And the Jets ain't going to re-sign him after this crap.
I wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Like
you mentioned the hold in there. That's something
you
reneged. Yep. That's
on the actual deal. So why would I trust you? Because it just looks like to me you're a money merchant right now. You ain't trying to get a championship.
And plus, then he's going to be 30, turning 31. So, do the Jets want to invest in that future?
Listen, I know what kind of player he is. He's a beast.
I mean, he's recorded over double-digit sacks the past 4 seasons. That dominance is undeniable.
Who's advising him? Who his agent is? You got to look at the facts here in the contract. All right, if it was fully guaranteed and he didn't, he could get the money waived from holding out and doing whatever he's done, then yeah, I could see it. But it just doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, dude, just come in and take whatever the Jets gave you. I guarantee most of it's going to be guaranteed and play your ass off. You know what I mean? You'll be getting a big payday. At least you'll get at least a 2-year contract from somebody. You know what I mean? Probably 75% of it guaranteed.
Yeah, you mentioned that you spoke about the hold-in a little earlier on. That's something that we've seen emerge, in the league around players in the NFL. We saw Brandon Ayuk do it, during training camp with the 49ers. Like, if I was Hassan Reddick and I'm like, okay, I'm not playing. I want to get this deal done. I would just hold in. Show up, say, "Oh God, I pulled my hamstring. I can't practice."
Yeah, I hurt my back.
Yeah,
100%.
You're not losing the money. You're in the building. You're attending meetings. You're around the team. You're getting that environment, especially given that the Jets just traded for him. He hasn't gotten to know his teammates yet, and I'm worried about just throwing him right into the fire in a game like situation after he practices with the team for however long he does. But it's like, come on, man, just get to the point where it's like, even if he'd showed up tomorrow and would do a hold in, That's still a win. Like, just
I'm just
get
saying, let me
him.
give you
Just get him in Florham Park.
let me give you an example, kind of like an analogy. Like if I had a job at one gas station with a whole bunch of other different employees, and then I got a job at another gas station, it's just in context. I'm just using the analogy.
Sure. Yeah.
It would take me a minute to adjust.
Yeah.
Naturally.
You see what I mean? And that's any job.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Even though you're doing the exact same thing,
Mm-hmm.
okay, it still takes a minute to adjust
New
because
people,
it's not all that stuff. You see what I mean? So it's getting to the point where it's just like, dude, come on, man. Like,
Let's
we
see.
get it.
Come on, man.
We get it. But Paul, what's up? You want to play?
We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
Tim, we really
Thanks,
appreciate the call. You got any final thoughts?
Just keep Rodgers healthy and the O-line healthy. That's all I care
God
about.
bless America.
The
Cheers
O-line
to that.
is the driving force. You know, Connor, you're young. I'm 35 years. I don't know how old Paul is. I'm
20. I'm 21. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but I got to see good Jet teams growing up when I was your age.
I just missed them.
It is so much fun. Okay, but it is so much fun when they're out there. And all you have to do is, like, in the last 10 years, you could pay attention to the line of scrimmage for the Jets. 7 out of 10 times they're getting beat on both sides.
Yep.
You see what I mean? You look at the good years we had, the Rex Ryan years, the Chad Pennington years, the Vinny Testaverde years. The Jets are getting up on people on the O-line and the D-line. They're penetrating. You see what I mean? Like, it's all one at the line of scrimmage. Okay? And that's what I'm most, concerned about. I just need that solidified offensive line behind a 40-year-old quarterback that Paul seems to love to scramble with.
I choose to have no comment at this time.
But you need to start playing with, like, Lamar or the Eagles or something like that.
Would that work? Would that work better?
It would, because you're faster. You're a running quarterback. Aaron's not a running quarterback.
Hey, his name used to be White Lightning. That used to be his nickname.
Well, I mean, my name used to be another thing too back in my 20s. You know what I mean?
Well, fair enough. We'll see if I get any mix of the selection I'm in. I appreciate you,
Tim. Really appreciate the call to wrap things up tonight. Nothing better than a Tim from Fishland call to end the show. Boy Green, another episode of In the Huddle in the books. What are your final thoughts?
Well, I'm just excited. This week is both joint practice and preseason games, which takes our football viewing experience and obviously the content experience to another level. So I'm excited. The Jets are going to be playing against another opponent of a different jersey color on Thursday, and of course, in the game. And I get so excited for this stuff. So it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Really looking forward to this season where is it? Oh, no, not that one.
No.
This year, he'll get to see a winner. And that's what I hope. Super Bowl or bust, baby. It is the New York freaking JTS Jets with Aaron Rodgers under the helm. You just have to pray and hope that he will stay healthy. But everyone, like I said earlier on the show, make sure you're subscribed to both of our YouTube channels. We have currently across all platforms, we have 450 people watching live right now. We really appreciate the support. Everyone, thank you guys for watching. And as always, JTS, Jets.